Good evening. The National Unity Platform represents in its ideology the anxiety faced by majority young people. In a country of dwindling opportunities, high unemployment and rising inequality, the party's politics are well cut out. After garnering over 35% of the vote in the last election, and mostly from urban areas where youth anxiety is highest, the party's leader, Robert Kyagulanyi, has sought to chart out a path for it as a party responsive to young people's plight. His travel to the UAE and campaign to return Ugandans stranded there has garnered momentum, but raised the ever more important question: what is the solution to Uganda's small job market? Tonight on the spot is the party's Secretary General, David Louis Rubongoya. NUP Secretary General David Louis Rubongoya, thank you so much, sir, for having honored our invitation. A warm welcome to you.
Thank you very much, and a very good evening to the viewers.
We tried to do a digital promo about you coming to this show, and I've been getting a lot of comments and views and people trying to listen, getting ready to hear from you. I must tell you tonight, Uganda is watching and they want to hear from you. Yeah. And let me begin like this. You started with a lot of gusto as NUP, a lot of momentum, a lot of zeal. Many people are inspired. But when we look at 2022 now in October, it appears the momentum is low, you're slow, and what is happening?
Well, maybe, I don't know, like you said, it appears. I don't know, it appears to who. I think we're doing what we're supposed to do, and what we're here to discuss tonight shows that actually we continue to do that which we promised to Ugandans. We continue to advance the cause for the plight of the people of Uganda. We continue to be a voice for the millions of young people in this country who do not feel represented. Definitely there have been many challenges, which you know very well. Every activity we've tried to do in the past 2-3 years has ended up in young people being abducted, others being killed, others in prison right now. Chitalia, we still have over 100 people in different detention places in this country. So you would expect these challenges to have some effect on the general... So the abduction and the arrest and the jailing, is that dampening the mood in NUP party? It's a challenge, and we must admit it, because, all these millions of young people who came out to express solidarity with NUP, with people power, thought they were participating in politics. But it turned out that General Museveni and his regime viewed it as a military operation. And so it has an effect on the population where people come out to protest, and then everyone, they are taken away, they are killed, and that kind of thing. It has an effect. But, like we always say, there is always a calm before the storm. This silence should not be taken as a victory on behalf of our oppressors.
So you've just talked about almost 100 young people in Kitalia and other prisons, I suppose. And you are the Secretary General of the National Unity Platform, and Ugandans are watching. Parents of these young people are listening and watching you right now. What would you tell them?
I would tell them to continue struggling, because we want to live in a country where it is okay for me to come and criticize the regime and go back and sleep peacefully, not thinking about a drone coming to pick me up. I want to be able to go on Twitter, on Facebook, and criticize General Museveni and his decadent regime, and not be afraid of reprisals. So the parents out there who are watching us, and indeed the young people and everyone who's watching us, it is very, very important to know that this is a struggle for liberation.
You're telling them to struggle, yes. They are struggling, they have sacrificed, they are in jail, they are being beaten, like you're saying, but you are living in an air-conditioned room and driving 4x4 and having a life in Kampala.
That is not true. Well, as you know, I myself have been arrested at some point, and not only me, many others, all these leaders. The other day we were at our secretariat at NUP, and you could see that every young person there has at one point been arrested, at one point been abducted, at one point been tortured. So it's not true everyone is a victim in this kind of situation. But Mandela told us that there's no easy walk to freedom. So we are guided by that. For us who are involved in this business, you know that you will either face imprisonment, torture, or death. And these things will happen to all of us, have happened to many of us, but you need to understand that this is a struggle for liberation. You'll either be imprisoned, you'll be tortured, because this is what we are involved in.
David Rubongoya, do you have any confidence in the judicial system of Uganda?
I do not have confidence in the judicial system, but I have confidence in some sane judicial officers. Because whereas the system is corrupted, there are a few judicial officers who actually still stand by their values.
So where is the hope of these young people now in jail, according to you?
I want to mention, first of all, that at the time when we started, I mean, from elections, we had over maybe 5,000 people in detention across the country. Now we're talking about 200, 300 people who are still in detention. So there has been a lot of progress. We've gotten bail for many of them. Others have been dumped somewhere. Those who had been abducted and held in unknown places have been dumped in swamps and other places.
Clearly, the judicial system of Uganda is working.
But like I said, some have been dumped in swamps by the same people who got these people. But also, you need to understand that many of our people were actually held in military courts. So that's not even a judicial system, because it's a system which operates on orders from above. Now, if you're involved in a military trial, it is up to the command of the military to say, now let's release this group of people, and then the following day we'll release another group, that kind of thing. So every 6 months they will release a few, and then wait for maybe 6 months, release a few. That's what has been going on.
But you know, I started by saying that I saw the momentum, I saw the gusto, I saw the zeal, I saw the inspiration that Robert Kyagulanyi had given to the young people. But really, I know you can say that was election time, but when you look at 2022 in October, quite frankly, David, the mood is down. Yeah,
but it's expected, like I said. This is part of a struggle for liberation. Every struggle, if you read, whether it is a military struggle, by the way, whether it is a non-violent struggle like the one we're involved in, it will have highs and lows. And it's deliberate on our side, for example, to take time organizing, to take time reflecting, to take stock of what has happened, but also to do a lot of work on, getting people out of jails and that kind of thing. So it has been deliberate. But what I'll say to you is that very soon you'll see us doing massive activities. The good thing is that we still connect with our people. You've seen every time our President Robert Kyagulanyi has gone out there, whether it's a church event, whether it's what you've seen, all these hundreds of border borders follow him. You've seen on social media, people still believe in the dream. People still believe in the vision. People still embrace this idea. But like I said, one of the things that we need to reflect on as Ugandans is that these millions of people are coming out to support a political party. And instead, the regime saw it as though we are a military threat and decided to treat us as such. And that, of course, created problems for many of these our young people. You've seen renewed abductions. In the past 3 or 4 weeks, many of young people have been abducted and taken to unknown places. As I speak now, there are many people who we don't know even where they are, having been abducted from their homes in the dead of the night, etc., etc. So how do you expect to organize in such an environment? However, like I said, we're not giving up, we're not giving in. We, like Chinua Achebe famously said, when the shooters learn to, when the hunters learn to shoot without missing, the birds have to learn to fly without perching. So we are also trying to adjust to this situation which we find ourselves, to see that eventually we achieve that we are trying to push, and that is change in this country.
So look, somebody told me that, you know what, David and your group, NUP, you undertook this journey like a sprint, but it appears the police of Uganda are like a marathon. It's about endurance. Maybe the strategy was different.
That's what it is. That's what it is everywhere. Like I said, there is no easy walk to freedom. That's what Mandela said.
You sprinted when it should have been a marathon.
No, you see, like I said, in every struggle there are different moods and there are different stages. If you read even these rebels who came and took over our country and have caused immense suffering to our people. If you read their books, there are times when actually their military campaign was going very smoothly, and there are times when many of them thought of giving up. You know, so that happens in every struggle. If you read, whether it is a struggle against apartheid, whether it's a struggle everywhere in the world, there are always those phases. You know, even if you are on a military campaign, for example, there's a time when you can decide to say, let's withdraw, take time, take stock, reflect, re-energize the troops, and continue on the march. So that's what we're, like I said, part of what we've been doing is that reorganization, taking stock of what happened, and also trying to rescue people. If you are on a campaign and you have so many wounded people, you need to, you know, reflect, treat them, re-energize them, and ensure that they are...
So as we talk right now, there's a lot of bitterness in Uganda, and there's a lot of anger, but also we have a jobless generation. And some of these young people who are jobless really are people who are your supporters. What would you tell them? In the meantime, what can they do, you know, so that they can better their lives?
As long as we still have a regime which does not care about the people, but cares about longevity, cares about how it keeps itself in power against the will of the people, their plight will not change. So what my message to the young people out there is that as you hustle, as you try to do this and that, let's continue focusing on changing the politics of Uganda. The governance question, it's about the priorities.
Wouldn't you also maybe advise them to take advantage of the policies? Now there's parish development model and all this kind of stuff, so that they can take advantage of those government programs that are around, so that they can, you know, have a livelihood.
But which program has succeeded? You know, we can start with Ntandikwa, we go to the Youth Livelihood Project they were talking about the other day, you talk about NADS, you talk about Operation Wealth Creation, now you talk about everything that they have come up with has been riddled with corruption. You've seen already how much amounts of money are missing already as we speak under this PDM they are talking about. The other day I saw one of the newspapers publishing a list of districts where billions of Uganda shillings has already been lost through corruption under PDM. So what would we be encouraging these young people to go to? And secondly, these programs unfortunately are looked at by the regime as patronage schemes. That is why you've seen the parish chiefs, for example, complaining that the program has been hijacked by NRM operatives. You know, so it's not a national program in essence. General Museveni looks at it as a way of luring these people, putting, you know, as basically as a political tool in his favor. But so you cannot encourage our people, our young people who are oppressed, who are really, really very poor, to go into these things, because they will definitely not benefit from it.
I know, for example, the Honorable Robert Chagulanyi, a couple of weeks back, maybe a week ago, was in the United Arab Emirates trying to rescue Ugandans who are stranded there. What do you know about the Ugandan who are stranded there, and what do you want to do?
Patrick, there are so many Ugandans who are stuck in the United Arab Emirates and indeed many other countries. These people went to these countries looking for jobs. Unfortunately, many of them ended up in very, very abusive working conditions, dehumanizing working conditions, and so that's how they ended up in this kind of crisis. So they had to run away. The other day we received some of these people. We have so far received 41 that we've been able to repatriate, and we are processing repatriation of many others.
How do you deal with repatriation? I mean, this is a diplomatic endeavor. It also requires quite financial resources. You
know, for us, we are doing what we can, and this is Gwanga Muje. This
repatriation is government to government. You are not in government.
You see, first of all, we look at ourselves as a legitimate elected government of Uganda.
Which is not true, by the way.
But it is true. We were elected by the people.
35% is what Uganda...
Come on, that's according to Yawakama.
Yawakama was the chairman of the electoral commission.
Come on, like I said, that's according to Yawakama. But
the one who should have announced
the people who are watching us, but I mean, you need to speak as someone who lives in this country, and you know that Yawakama is an extension of General Museveni and his decadent regime. What I'm saying is...
Yes, you went to him to be able to be the chairman of the electoral commission.
And we went to him for certain objectives. But you saw what kind of... The point I'm making is...
I know you could have gotten more than 35%. That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's the point. The point is that, like I said, we look at ourselves.
But was it substantial enough to make you...
Of course. Of course. Actually, if you had a free and fair election in this country, I don't think General Museveni and his people would even get 20% of the vote. They wouldn't, definitely.
I am convinced that you won here where we are. I'm convinced that you won in the Near East. But in other places, Davis, you struggled.
No, come on. But was there an election in those places you're talking about, where the military comes and takes over the entire... were you even allowed as journalists to go and cover what was going on in some of those places? Were you able to announce those results as they were coming in? You know, but that's beside the point, because
anyway,
the point is that for us, when we look at ourselves, we see that we have the mandate of the people of Uganda, and especially the young people of Uganda. We cannot sit down and watch them suffer and not do anything about it. So there are many things we'll do. We'll talk about it, we'll shout about it until somebody hears
So
it.
you have been able to help, and 41 Ugandans have been repatriated home.
And we are looking at
So how
more
did you do that, and what is the fate of the others?
They are, first of all, like I said, we do not collect taxes as the regime does. So what we can do is only to rely on the goodwill of different people. Our president made the first contribution of 10 million shillings, and other Ugandans have come through. Our members of parliament, I'll tell you, have been contributing money towards this cause. And our local government leaders and others, to see that we help these people return to Uganda.
But you have the leader of opposition in parliament. In fact, the leader of opposition is such a huge responsibility with the budget.
Yeah.
And you have members of parliament, almost 50, plus other opposition leaders. Can't you discuss this thing on the floor of parliament and, you know, be able to force government to work?
But you remember that the shadow minister for foreign affairs, Honorable Mwada Nkunyinji, made a statement on the floor of parliament. That was after he made a visit to Dubai and to all these other places, and saw the suffering of these people in August. And he came and laid before Parliament a statement explaining the circumstances of these people, but the regime will not act. I mean, when has it acted about matters concerning Ugandans? It has not done that before, and don't expect them to act now. So that's why, after waiting since August when this matter came up to now, we decided that we could not continue to watch on. So we organized a concert. Our president, being a singer, decided to organize a charity concert, which, as you know, was frustrated by regime authorities here, government authorities, who went to Dubai and did everything possible to frustrate the concert. I mean, and then we said, what can we do?
You are saying Kampala has the influence over Dubai?
Of course, you say that this is a diplomatic issue.
Yes.
That is why when our president reached Dubai, at the airport, he was held for about 8 hours. And you know what they were asking him? You're a leader of NUP, what does NUP do? Who are your coordinators here? What are your plans? So why would immigration officials, or why would you be asked about NUP at the airport? So this is just politics. These people had been told that this man is a rabble-rouser, is going to come here and lead protests and that kind of thing. So that's why these people got scared. But after making different inquiries... I think you are giving too much credit to the NRM government, that here in Kampala they have the capacity to influence matters in Dubai, do they? Well, they do. I mean, it's, you know, unfortunately, the way the world operates, if someone goes and claims, and of course falsely, that someone is coming to your country... There should be smart people running government if they can make the United Arab Emirates. They're actually not smart. You are saying that, they are cowards. That Kampala was able to influence the UAE. They are not smart, they are cowards. I find that even very hard to comprehend. You know, you must have seen a video which has been making rounds where the embassy officials actually went to these detention centers the other day and these young people chased them away. Because this is what they've been doing to frustrate them. And, you know, trying to make a case to the authorities that these people are violent, these people are what. But these are Ugandans, young Ugandans especially, who are stuck, who went to these countries to look for a future. And so that's what we should be focusing on, their plight and how to assist them. So you have managed, through you and other people, to get 41 Ugandans back home. I mean, so that's a winning formula.
Why don't you double the effort?
But like I said, I will not tell you everything here because you know how the regime operates. But like I will tell you that many more are coming and we'll be updating the country as they come.
Why should it be a clandestine? Why should it be a clandestine operation?
That's why
you are bringing Ugandans. You're not involved in a clandestine operation.
But you know, this country, whatever you do, they look at it with eyes of politics. You saw what happened to a group of 15 who arrived the other day, and the people at the airport grilled these people for 8 hours, blocked them from leaving, and eventually placed them in drones with armed people and took them to the taxi park and told them, we should not see you anywhere near Kamocha or Magede. Didn't you see that? Did the regime come out to say that that was not true? They held them, took away their phones, and started listening to all their messages and recording and trying to follow up to ask them who are the leaders on the other side, who are mobilizing you, who is paying the tickets, how is this being done and all that. So because in this country, regardless of what you do, as long as General Museveni thinks that you may get a political dividend out of it, he will come in with full force to try and block it.
So you have also learned to start flying without patching?
Definitely, and that has been our formula. That's how we got a political party, because the regime would never allow you, although in any other country it would be legal for you to have a delegates conference, invite the media and all that. We knew that if General Museveni and his people learned, even by rumor, that we are planning to get a political party, they would block us. Because that's a political environment.
So Ugandans have found themselves in Dubai and other places, and quite a number of Ugandans have thrived, by the way.
Yeah.
They're doing well in the Middle East. Quite a number. A few of them have run into trouble. But why are they getting out of Uganda? Because we have a jobless generation. I know you cannot be talking about politics. You can also be maybe finding a way on how you can inspire Ugandans. If you're going to bring some people who can teach self-engineering, let it be.
This is something we do. We have a fully-fledged training department, and we even skill people in different, you know, vocational skills, etc., etc. But like I said, since we do not get taxes from the people and therefore our capacities are limited, we can only do this for demonstration purposes. We cannot, we don't have the capacity to roll out, for example, a nationwide program on some of these matters. But we've been doing them at the scale which we can afford within our means. So we talk about politics because that is a problem of Uganda right now. So bad governance, bad politics.
The people who are stuck in UAE, is it an economic problem or a diplomatic problem?
Both. It is both an economic problem and a diplomatic problem. Diplomatic in which sense? Because, for example, other countries like Nigeria, Kenya, the Philippines, and Ghana went in and, you know, chartered planes to pick these people out and take them back to their countries. But Uganda has not done that. Economic, because these people leave Uganda because there are no jobs here because of the unemployment rates. They go to these countries, they are harassed. The agreement, the labor agreement between, for example, Uganda and the UAE, the MPs have been asking for it, and it's a top secret, just like the oil agreements and other agreements the regime makes. There's no transparency. They will not put them online like you would find in other countries, so that the rights of these workers when they go to these Arab countries are protected and as backed by certain document. No one knows why this agreement is. Despite demands from Parliament and other stakeholders, the agreements have not been put out there. Look at which firms you know, take these people abroad. Mm-hmm. Many of them are manned or owned by security operatives or people who are connected to the status quo here. And that is why it is difficult to punish them. Because they take these people, abandon them. I'll tell you, for example, that most of the people who are trying to repatriate don't have passports. Why? Because as soon as they landed in Dubai, as soon as they landed in Oman and other countries, their passports were taken away by these people, and so you have to get temporary travel documents for them. That's where those are the documents which they are using to come back. That's an abuse. Why would you take away someone's passport, someone's you know, travel document in that fashion? But majority of them, maybe up to 80% of the people who are trying to help bring back, don't have passports. So and you have a government in Kampala which claims to, you know, be legitimate. How can you allow your citizens to be dehumanized in such a manner, and you call yourself a government.
So the party president, the Honorable Robert Chagulanyi, wanted to put up a show in Dubai, a charity show, so that maybe people could come in and he gets money, and then he could help those younger Ugandans who are stranded there. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
What next up your sleeve?
What we are doing now, I'll tell you that our target was getting as many people as possible, and right now, apart from the 41, there are many others who are being sponsored, because, like I said, we approach issues not just by helping people financially or something like that, but also by speaking about them, and that's the most important way. So the plight of these people has not been known even by journalists here and many others. Now it is on everyone's mind. So I'll tell you that there are many people who have come in to help, even without our knowledge. And you hear that someone, a volunteer, has come in, paid for 10 people, and they're out of the detention center. And so, and for us, that's exciting news.
So what is the situation like for those Ugandans? You're calling it a detention center, but are they really under detention?
They're under detention. You had some of them, the press, talking about the lack of medical facilities, lack of basic items, the women, even to a point of lacking sanitary pads, and all these other essential or basic items. And when our president went there and saw their situation, we had other volunteers come in, and that is when they were able to get some relief. Food items, you know, some basic items, medicine, etc., etc. So it's a detention facility. Like any other, freedom is restricted, and those other things happening.
If the government of Uganda is not responsive to some of these issues, I could imagine you could refer the case to human rights organizations, local or international, because it looks like this is a human rights issue.
Definitely, but you know, we've raised all the human rights issues in this country with several organizations, and we appreciate those that have taken action. But you know, if someone is in detention and all they need to return is an air ticket, why not try to provide that air ticket and then deal with the other human rights situations after? So yes, these are issues we've been talking about, and these are governance issues. We believe that Uganda, for us as NUP, our stand has been that Uganda has enough resources to help our people. It's just that our money is misused through patronage and all these things. Basically, the wrong priorities which the regime here focuses on. But we believe that if you had your priorities right, you'd be able to get these people opportunities here and therefore prevent them from going abroad into these situations.
Mr. Rubongoya, what would you propose as alternatives to handle labor externalization?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That first of all, you need to create jobs here, create job opportunities here, and you know, it doesn't take, it doesn't require rocket science. You don't need to be a philosopher to figure this out. That the money which we spend, for example, you know, in our manifesto, we talked about a lean and efficient government. But just look at the money we spend just on public expenditure, on, you know, paying all sorts of people whose roles are duplicated. You know, in Kampala, it's rare to see a minister who does not have a convoy of 3 vehicles. And you know how much money you spend on that every day? You know how many billions we spend on State House every day, on General Museveni and his family? You know how much money we spend on the military when the country is stable, not at war? You know all these things, how much money we spend on classified expenditure or the so-called classified expenditure. So if you got all this money and invested it in agriculture, in infrastructure, in things that will boost the economy, then you're going to be able to create job opportunities for the young people here and definitely reduce the numbers who end up. The last time I checked, actually, this government was investing more in infrastructure. No, and that's why they get it wrong. Most of this money, first of all, no, the money is first of all going to pay loans, which we get, and then you hear that they are even due, but we've not been able to utilize them. You know, the money that we've borrowed, we've not been able to utilize it, and that kind of thing. That's where a very, very big portion of the money actually goes. But when I talk about infrastructure, I'm not just talking about roads. I'm talking about industries. I'm talking about all other, aspects that would boost the economy and create jobs for young people. Investment in agriculture, investment in technology. You know, in other countries, you see how the investment in technology is able to create opportunities, so many opportunities for young people. People don't need to be in these formal employment opportunities that the traditional employment opportunities that we know about. Now, as the generation changes, there are many other ingenious ways of being able to boost the economy through technology and other aspects.
NUP Secretary General David Lewis Rubongoya, hold on to your points, sir, because we're going to take a break, and on the spot we'll be right back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara. My guest tonight is the NUP Secretary General David Lewis Rubongoya. You know, David, you're talking about young, probably NUP supporters or not, but Ugandans who are stuck in UAE, in Dubai to be exact. But they are your supporters. Yesterday I was in a conversation with a respectable Ugandan who had traveled to Nairobi, and he came across Ugandans, young people, boys and girls, supporters of NUP, who are apparently living in exile in Nairobi.
Yeah, that's true. And like I wanted to clarify that many of the people who leave Uganda and go into these Arab countries and indeed other countries are not only there because of economic reasons. Some of them have left Uganda because of the repressive environment here. And if you go to every country from Kenya to Malawi to Zambia to South Africa, you'll find countless Ugandans who are there who ran away from the repressive political environment here. You know, these past few weeks, you've had, for example, a Twitter user whose wife was arrested, was abducted and kept for 9 days because the regime was trying to use her to get the young man on Twitter. And you know what normally happens to these people? They are taken, tortured, subjected to all manner of things, injected with unknown substances. So what do you do under such circumstances? Many of these people end up getting onto the next bus or whichever way to be out of this country. So that is a crisis that we have. So
specifically the young boys and girls in Nairobi, because I got it from somebody reliable who had a conversation with them. Yeah. Is there any plan? Can they come back? Because if they are there, if they are political exiles, then they are not going to come back. You cannot be talking about their repatriation, can you?
Those ones we are not talking about their repatriation. They are there because if they come back here, they will face very tough consequences. So those ones, as NUP, we help them in different ways, of course, giving them support letters and other forms of assistance that we extend to them for them to be able to be safe until, of course, when this country changes, and then they'll be able to return home. But it is very, very embarrassing and unfortunate. I grew up hearing about exiles in the days of Idi Amin, but to see that in 2022 we are still talking about many, many Ugandans in exile. In the US, in Europe, everywhere, people seeking asylum because here they will be abducted, tortured, subjected to all manner of dehumanizing conditions.
How come I've also been able to see other people, they're able to express themselves, sometimes actually using very stinging kind of words, but they still live in Kampala?
Well, because we are living under what Professor Oloka Onyango describes as a benevolent dictator. These dictators who know how to operate, they know who to touch and to send a message to others. So definitely there are millions of people out there, for example, on social media, who are always critical of the regime. But when they arrest one Motive Kasaga and take him and torture him, they are trying to send a message to those many others. And bet you me, if the conditions were not that repressive, maybe you would be seeing a lot more action, a lot more critical thought out there, etc., etc. So, and indeed, many of the people who you see actually on social media, for example, expressing themselves, are people who are no longer living in Uganda. These are people who run away, who are in South Africa, who are in other countries out there, because they feel safer to express themselves.
So now with the new law, the Computer Misuse Act, I can imagine that is really hitting hard because your constituency is young, is savvy, is computer savvy and stuff like that. And so have they stopped expressing themselves internally?
Well, the people out there, and this is our encouragement to them, it is very important to know that a bad law is a bad law. and you commit no moral offense if you defy a bad law. So I'm a lawyer, and looking at this Nsereko's law, it is one of the most ridiculous laws I've ever come across. Ridiculous in every sense of the word. Ridiculous, unconstitutional on every front. You as a journalist, you no longer have any job if you have to go by that law. So Ugandans are encouraged to defy that law because it is unconstitutional, it is illegal, it doesn't stand any legal
I know Ugandans are going to court. They've gone to court.
They've gone to court, but even before going to court, you see, when the Public Order Management Act was passed, people went to court, and it took 7 years for a decision to come out. And you know how many people suffered because of that ridiculous law, which was against, public assembly and all that. So our encouragement to the people is that continue expressing yourselves, continue standing for what you believe, because the Constitution gives you this right, but not just the Constitution. These are God-given rights. That's why in law we call them inherent rights, to express yourself, to be able to assemble peacefully, to, the freedom of the press, the freedom of the media. All these Nsereko's law seeks to take them away.
But you are aware that this law that was passed, the Computer Misuse Act, risks sending most of your supporter base into jail. But
they have already been abducted and tortured, and even in the absence of this law. You know what they've been using? Offensive communication. When they picked a young lady called Tracy, Nalboa Teddy, and took her away, they said she was...
So how do you want to, how do you intend to navigate that?
I mean, the point is that they did not even need another law to do what they've been doing, because they've already been doing it. They've been charging all these young people with offensive communication. So we don't see anything different. It is the same script, the pattern is the same. We are going to go to test this. We are supporting the efforts, the legal efforts. But like I said, we don't just go the legal route because we know the challenges with the judiciary and everything like that. So our view is that every Ugandan should use all means possible. There are lawyers who have gone to the South African Court of Justice. There are others who will go to the African Commission on Human and People's Rights. There are others who will go on the street to protest against it. Many others, millions, will defy it, will simply defy it, and continue to exist as though that law does not exist, because in fact it does not exist in the laws of Uganda, constitutionally.
Whereas I believe and I support the freedom of expression, and people should be free to express themselves, quite frankly, there's some people who you could say they have behaved like social media mujahideen.
But there are laws in this country already. We have a law on defamation. If you think I've committed any offense, if I've defamed, you take me to court. There are laws on defamation. There's criminal defamation in the penal code. So why don't you use those available laws to prosecute anyone who you think is committing any offense? Why do you need to bring another ridiculous law?
So you seem to think, or do you think that this law was brought to hang on your head like the proverbial sword of Damocles, that anytime you want to speak, they want to chop?
Definitely.
To scare and intimidate you.
You know, it's clear. I want you to see that from the time we had the 2009 protests, the attack came straight onto the media. And they started issuing provisional licenses, etc., etc. And General Museveni thought he had dealt with that problem and finally concretized it. When there were the 2001 walk to work protests, 2011 actually, he came up with a different law, the Public Order Management Act, which was passed in 2013, to try and curtail the freedom of Ugandans to go on the streets to protest. And so he thought that through that law, he had been able to do that. Now he found himself having another problem, and that is social media. That is why in Uganda up to now, Facebook is switched off. That is why he introduced the OTT tax, and which he said was against rumor-mongering. That is why during elections, the internet was switched off entirely in this whole country. And you are talking about 35%, which Byabakama announced for NUP. Which you can clearly see whatever they did. So the point I'm making is that this new law is in a way trying to respond to the challenge of social media, which General Museveni really wants to find a solution to. But I can assure him, if he's watching, that he will not succeed. This is a generation that is determined to see change in their lifetime.
Do you sometimes, I wonder what you make of, there is a senior presidential advisor a general of the UPDF, former commander of the land forces. He's quite savvy on the social media. He's quite very busy on the social media. And sometimes the words he talks about are not very palatable. And he's of your generation, I suppose. What do you make of him?
Do you really want me to talk about him?
Why not?
I just don't feel that he doesn't really deserve my attention. I think there are bigger issues to deal with in this country.
Even when he says after his father's reign, he will be happy to beat your hands down. And you still don't want to talk about it.
I will tell you that Patrick Kamara, if you run for office with that gentleman, you'll beat him.
Of course I will.
By far. You definitely will beat him. I think any serious Ugandan who takes that gentleman serious is not serious. A person who claims to be serious, you cannot take a very unserious person serious. And so I think, first of all, Uganda is not a monarchy. And any Ugandan who is out there supporting that kind of politics does not love this country.
You don't see him as a competitor
and does not
in this election. Moving forward, you don't see him as a competitor.
I don't see him as a I mean, I know Ugandans, and I know that the people of Uganda are smart, and the people of Uganda want a better future. And I don't think Ugandans can entrust their future to such an individual. However, what we are dealing with...
There are not very many Ugandans who have organized a birthday party and it has attracted tens of thousands of people.
Well, because if you are able to go and
I've never had one party
put a bus and bring this... First, allow the Honorable Chagulanyi to organize one, even for his son, and then you'll see how many people will come. Maybe you'll not even have where to put them. They will fill the whole city. So the point is that we are dealing with a crisis, and the people who are watching us out there, I want to appeal to them.
You underestimate some people, individuals in this town on your own peril.
The younger generation, the older generation, we need to save the neck of our country. I wouldn't expect anybody who thinks that, you know, leadership should just be inherited from father to son and all those kinds of things. This is not a monarchy. And also it's ridiculous that he keeps saying my army, my this, like his father, how he refers to our oil as his oil. That is wrong. And the people of Uganda must be able to put an end to that kind of reasoning, to that kind of thought, and build a new country where the citizens truly own their country.
You know, Mr. Rubongoya, your leadership at Parliament hasn't stopped the passing of these, what you call draconian laws that have passed. Do you want to reconsider your role in Parliament, maybe?
First of all, right now, the reason why we're in Parliament is to be able to, you know, say something about these laws, but also to push the struggle at Parliament. And our members of Parliament have indeed undertaken different activities, have done several things. For example, this law, there was a minority report from our own Member of Parliament, Honorable Namuga Goret, and our members put up resistance. But you know the kind of leadership we have at Parliament now, it was just passed in a hasty manner without even allowing so much debate on it. So it is important that we are on record, on record, because you know it's important to look at Uganda after Museveni. It is important not to restrict our view of Uganda to these perilous times that we are living in. There are definitely, I don't know who will be around, but there will be a Uganda where General Museveni and his people will not be there. And the people will look back at the contribution, who said what before Parliament. And the wisdom which is coming out from our members and all that will at some point be the wisdom that will carry the day.
We are being hit by serious inflation, and not only this is not just even a Uganda-centric problem. It's the whole global, ecosystem, economic ecosystem is actually affected. Most countries are losing value and stuff like that. Would want to hear what would be NUP's proposition on how we can beat this.
You know, for us as NUP, we've been saying that, you know, a country needs to be able to foresee, to tell that, you know, if you're in good times, you need to think about bad times. And the problem is you have a national planning authority here in this country. I don't know what they do. Because if you had a functional national planning authority, it should be able to forecast, to see where we are, what is likely to happen, and plan. You know, you're talking about fuel prices. We talked about the fact that Uganda does not have the ability to even if there's if we reach the point and we cannot have any fuel coming in, we don't even have enough fuel to sustain. We don't have enough fuel in reserve to sustain us for a month, for 2 months. So you can imagine what kind of country we live in. So you need to plan. So while the other countries are in this shock and all that, you see different governments coming up with ways of being able to, cushion the public,
but the
cushion the population.
The countries in the region, if you look at them, they seem to have been hit harder than ourselves.
No, actually, not true. Definitely, Kenya is doing much better than us, for example. And I'll tell you that at one point...
They tried to put subsidies and they burnt their fingers.
It depends how you say it. But,
so they had to follow what Uganda is doing.
No, first of all, I believe that subsidies work in our context. But the question is how you apply them. And like I said, there are many other things you need to do to prepare the nation for a cold day, for a bad day. Unfortunately, the regime does not plan for that. They've not thought about that. We've proposed several things, you remember, about the fuel and commodity prices generally. Some of the things which we thought should happen, reducing taxes on some of these commodities that are coming in, removing some fees, clearance fees and all that kind of thing, so that the common people out there can be able to afford soap. People can be able to afford fuel. They can be able to afford whatever other means of life, basically. So there are different things we think should be done to help the people. You have a country where you don't even have a governor of the Bank of Uganda for all this time. And then you're talking about inflation. You don't even know who is directing the monetary policy of the country in such a time. So this is where we are, a state of confusion, and NUP would definitely do things better.
Where do you stand on the East African crude oil pipeline that seems to be in jeopardy right now?
No, we've given our thoughts. We've made it clear that as long as General Museveni continues to say my oil, then Ugandans should know that this is not their oil they're talking about. But I also want you to look at the major projects that the regime has undertaken.
So the Tajak Gassima campaign is your campaign?
We support it because when the European Union raised issues, serious human rights issues about ECOP, we supported it. As NUP,
you do not want Uganda to extract oil from Hoima through the pipeline to
No, we do not
want that pipeline to continue.
As NUP, we do not want thieves in charge of our oil. We want the people of Uganda to be in charge of their oil. That is the clear thing.
For now, you're siding with the European Union members of Parliament.
Definitely, because the issues they raise are legitimate. The first point they say is that this, the oil pipeline in its current form is not meant to benefit the citizens of Uganda, the people of Uganda, in its current form. And we agree with that. Secondly, the human rights issues they raise, where you're evicting masses of people, hundreds of thousands of people without compensating them. The environmental issues that they raise, you need to have a clear environmental impact assessment.
But the NEMA has given it a green light. But the human rights organizations, local and indigenous here, have given it a green light.
But that's what I'm saying.
It appears the other members of the opposition in this in Uganda actually giving it a green light.
No, they have not. FDC came out and made their point very clear about ECOP, and actually they support our position and ourselves. And so...
That is tantamount to economic sabotage.
No, come on. We are saying that one of the points I was trying to make was that I want you to look at all the major projects that have been undertaken by this regime.
But you cannot you cannot be siding with some people in a parliament in Europe to sabotage your own country.
No, but sabotage what? And that's what I'm saying. What are Ugandans benefiting from these other projects that have been undertaken? Tell me one major project that has not been riddled with corruption, with siphoning of public funds, etc. What happened to the standard gauge railway? What happened to Rubongoya, where the citizens of this country injected billions and continue to do so? You've been seeing Bamutulaki before the Kosase. What is happening to the Uganda Airlines? So what are you talking about? You've seen what happened to the express highway and how much money the citizens of this country had to spend on making that road, on establishing that express highway, making it the most expensive road in the world. So what do citizens of Uganda, if you see the cause of the people of Bunyoro, what they have been talking about, saying that we need at least 15% of the dividends that come out of this oil. And we support that. We say if you're a host community, we don't want people of Karamoja to have gold and all these minerals and die of hunger. We believe that if you have gold under your soil, yes, this is a national asset, but some profit or
but
some
have you been to that place where they're supposed to build a refinery in Kabale and the airport? You know, because I've been there, and it appears majority of the people really were compensated, including building new houses for them in a place called the Chakaboga. But
there are reports, there have been reports done by several local NGOs, and that is why many of them were arrested and actually abducted. I don't want to even say arrested. NGOs, that's why NGOs were closed. You remember when 54 NGOs were closed, including those which were working in the oil sector? Why do you think that was going on?
So you'd rather this project stops. That is in your interest.
That's what we have said. That, for example, the European Parliament proposed a one-year moratorium to be able to sort out some issues. But if those issues are not sorted...
You know, in Europe, they are drilling right now in the most ecologically sensitive areas in the Arctic. See,
I would want you to look at...
They are using coal. In fact, the international countries are Africa is contributing 3% to the global emissions. They are destroying the environment, but they want to lecture us.
Now, I want to tell you that, first of all, two wrongs do not make a right. But beyond that...
But are you aware? Beyond that, are you aware that the countries that are trying to, you know, lectures are actually destroying the environment more?
One thing I know is that...
as we speak right now, they are burning coal and drilling in the Arctic.
One thing I know is that they are taking measures. They are taking measures, but also, you know, these issues are interrelated. If you're talking about the effect on the environment, the question is, what other infrastructure is in place to mitigate the effects of, you know, the effects on the environment, etc., etc. And you cannot compare the preparation, for example, in Europe with what you have here in this country. But like I was trying to explain to you, Patrick, have you looked at...
They have contributed 97% of the global emissions are contributed by the Northern Hemisphere.
What you are trying to tell
We're contributing 3%.
What you are trying to tell to Ugandans...
And they have reached where they have reached because they have been able to utilize their resources.
Exactly, that's the point. Utilize their resources. The question is, who is going to benefit from this oil? Have you looked at the oil agreements, the production sharing agreements, for example, related to the oil in Uganda? They have not been given to you. There's no transparency.
Hold on.
And so the point I'm making is, or the point that Ugandans out there need to know is, whose oil is it? And that's a key question that should be on the mind of Ugandans. When you say that the oil in those countries has been able to, the production of oil, the extraction of their resources, oil and gas, has been able to help boost their economies, the question you need to ask for Uganda is, whose oil is it? Who is likely to benefit from it? Who is getting jobs in those in the oil sector? Where is the transparency?
So, Taja Gassama is your campaign. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to open the lines, and I'm sure our social media platforms are open. Our WhatsApp number is open. I'll be reading the comments or questions that you have on our Magic War so that Davis Louis Rubongoya can respond to your questions on your comments. Just in case, if you are not in agreement with Davis or maybe me, which is normal, and that's the nature of debate, disagree with respect. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is the Secretary General of the National Unity Platform, Mr. David Louis Rubongoya. But by the way, we've talked so many things, and I forgot to ask about, I think, an important issue. And the important issue is the party prepared for the next general election?
Well, you know, you need to talk about elections in the true sense of the word in this country.
Yes.
And like I said, I wish we were in a country where you can prepare for the next election. But here we are. You don't even know whether you'll have an election. So for us as NUP, our focus is not on the next election. Mm-hmm. We take every day as it comes and try to advance the cause for liberation. That's what we do. every day because we believe that General Museveni and his people need to be out of the seat of the people of Uganda as soon as possible. So we don't need every day. You know, we've been talking about these girls who are going to, and boys, of course, men and women who are going to these Arab countries. I want you to go to the airport and see how many leave on a daily basis. So that is our preoccupation. That's what we should be talking about. Even when they know that there's a lot of suffering there, people would rather get out of the pan and fall into the fire.
But Louis, majority of Ugandans working in the Middle East are actually thriving.
But when what do you call thriving? Do you know how many jobs some of these people have to do? You know, to do this job 8 to this time, and then you go to another.
Yeah, some people are suffering, but majority have earned something.
And so, because you're not in a detention center, does not necessarily mean that you're happy and you're okay. That's when in Uganda here, we don't have a minimum wage. We don't have a minimum wage in this our country. Can you imagine that? The reason why these people go to those countries is because they want to be able to get some money, and it's not a lot to be able to support their families back home.
But you know that they have supported their families.
And that's what I'm saying, that the fact that someone is there, maybe not being abused, does not necessarily mean that they are happy, that they are having a good life. Some of them live under so much stress. I'll tell you, for example, that the last group that we brought, one of the ladies arrived, and she has mental challenges immediately.
There's no doubt there are people who have suffered, who are suffering even as we speak. But I also want to let you know that there are many Ugandans who are also doing well, and they have, you know, added value to their lives by working there.
That is not in contention.
Yes.
What I am saying is that the people should be able to have an opportunity to choose between whether I should work in Uganda or whether I should go abroad. It shouldn't be that you don't have opportunities in your country, and therefore I must, for me to survive.
They should also know, Louis, that in Kampala here where we are housemates who are suffering in those homes, and they are living in real hell here in Uganda.
But you shouldn't justify that.
No,
like I said, you cannot justify, you cannot use one of these circumstances to justify the other. So the point is that we really need to fix this, our country, so that I have a choice as a Ugandan to say that maybe I don't need to work in Uganda, I need to go to Oman and work there. No one should be able to block you from, you know, deciding to go where you want. But these people have no option. You know, you either live here and die of hunger, or just go and say, God willing, I will either fall in the right hands and be in a home that doesn't abuse me, or fall in one that abuses me, and then I have to run on the streets. I will tell you also, one of the categories that we've not talked about is many Ugandans in hundreds who sleep on the streets in these Arab countries. They are not even in detention centers, but they are on the streets. You know, and some of our MPs have been there. Honorable Mwada was there and interacted with many of them. They don't have housing, they don't have food, they don't have medication, they don't have anything. They're just on the streets. They've turned into beggars. Why should Ugandans be dehumanized in that manner? And then you say that you have a government at home. A government,
as we try to conclude our discussion, let me just pick maybe one or two callers so that they get to know what they have to say. It appears we have an issue with our WhatsApp line tonight, and I have a call online. Hello. Hello. I have a caller online. Hello. All right. As our technical guys are trying to sort that technical hitch, why did you opt out from the EALA race?
But you saw what EALA turned out to be, and I believe we were justified. You see, when we talk about things from an angle, it is very unfortunate sometimes that NUP is just a young party by all standards in terms of how much time it has spent on the scene. But we're able to see issues that some people don't see, and you just keep asking yourself, why can these people see these things? Because we interrogated this issue and realized that EALA, like all other institutions in this country, has been hijacked by General Museveni and uses it for patronage. I will tell you, for example, that right after elections, I got a number of calls from these NRM people encouraging me to run for EALA, and so that they support you. They say, if you run for EALA, we will support you. And I said, under what terms? Because I am in this for the long haul. I'm here to oppose bad government. Let me try to get, if I can get another call online. Hello. I have a call online. Hello.
Okay, I think we have an issue with our lines. We have an issue with our... hello? Yeah, I have a caller. Hello? Louis, what's going to be your parting shot?
So kindly let me conclude this point about Yala. So we told these people that General Museveni will take all the 9 slots. There are 9 slots, and he did took them. Because he saw, he decided... He took them. He took them. He said, these 6 NRM, then we are going to support these parties, the DP and whatever, and then the independent, they're the ones who decide. And we opposed that, and we said we are not going to participate in an exercise which is just meant to legitimize an unlawful, unconstitutional, illegal exercise, and that is why we are challenging it, because it is viewed in terms of patronage like they view all these other things. Your parting shot? My parting shots are to appreciate all Ugandans who continue to fight for democracy, human rights, and good governance. In a few months, we are going to be commemorating 2 years after there was a massacre on the streets of Kampala. We continue to sympathize with everybody who has had to go through all these challenges because of trying to fight for a better country. But we encourage everyone not to give up, not to give in, because we believe that the future is bright for this our country. David Louis Rubongoya, Secretary General of the National Unity Platform, thank you so much for having given us your time and adding value to our talk show this evening. And I know you've been trying to reach us, but because of some hitches we got technical, we are unable to hear phone calls, but also we could never to read your comments. But maybe we shall next time do that. I know sometimes we exchanged words that here are hard, are bitter. I think it's not because that we are bad people, but I think because we love our country more. And I know this country, there's a lot to serve everybody's need, but maybe there's not enough to serve everybody's greed. Good night, and God bless Uganda.